The SEC filed charges against Binance and its founder, CEO, CZ, which he's known for.
The SEC files charges against Binance entities and its founder, Changpeng Zhao.
Breaking news, the SEC now filing suit against Coinbase in Manhattan federal court. It says Coinbase has operated as an unregistered broker since at least 2019.
The SEC filing suit against Binance and Binance US last week for a slew of charges.
The Securities and Exchange Commission sued Binance, saying that it was operating an illegal securities exchange in the US.
The SEC is finally cracking down on crypto, and it is gonna be a bloodbath. If the SEC wins, which they're the government, they're gonna win, the crypto market in America will be practically wiped out overnight, and that is not an exaggeration. We're talking every single altcoin, probably even Ethereum too, gone. But there is one cryptocurrency that will come out on top of all this, one coin that will escape the wrath of the SEC. So if you're into crypto, this is the video you need to watch, where we're gonna break down everything for you.
There's going to be a massive battle, like David and Goliath. Binance and Coinbase are both hiring the best lawyers imaginable and paying millions of dollars to these lawyers and fighting against the SEC.
This is Mason Joppa, by the way. He's the founder of Blockware Solutions, which is a giant Bitcoin mining company. He's got massive Bitcoin mining farms in the US, where he's helped institutional investors on Wall Street get exposure to Bitcoin mining. And Mason actually spent like 8 hours reading the entire SEC lawsuits, so I thought he was the perfect person to bring on to help make sense of all this. So sit back, relax, and get ready for a wild next few years.
When you have a finite amount of crypto tokens and you're in exchange, holding most of the bag, you can manipulate markets. So I certainly think there was some market manipulation taking place.
On June 5th, 2023, the SEC's Twitter account dropped a bombshell announcement. Today, we charge Binance Holdings Binance US and their founder Changpeng Zhao, or CZ, with a variety of securities law violations, and it does not look good. 13 charges were filed against Binance. Some of them include CZ moving US customer funds into entities that he owns, and then using those entities to pump up trading volume on his exchange, while also trading against his own customers.
Binance was pumping volumes, so they were using their own entities to pump trade volume, which looks good for their exchange.
Binance has a US branch for US customers, and US customers are banned from their international platform, but apparently Binance was still allowing some American customers to continue trading on Binance International. And even more damning is that Binance offered their own coin BNB to American users, which is basically like them issuing Apple stock without registering it with the SEC.
Binance listed BNB, which is their own token, and they actually marketed the sale of their own token to US retail investors and accredited investors. So Binance marketed BNB, which the SEC is classifying as a security, and they did not register it. Unlike Coinbase, Binance actually is having a major allegation, a major battle. The SEC wants to freeze all of their assets, and that would be a major problem.
According to the SEC chairman Gary Gensler, there are 13 charges we allege that Joe and Binance entities engaged in an extensive web of deception, conflicts of interest, lack of disclosure, and a calculated evasion of the law. So basically, the SEC is alleging that Binance was doing pretty much every single shady thing you could possibly do as an exchange, but on steroids. Which is why CZ has intentionally kept Binance in the shadows. Quote, clearly CZ has been lurking in the shadows, end quote. One senator said, it's hard to put a finger on where Binance is operating and what they're doing. We're gonna deep dive into CZ, the most powerful man in all of crypto, in a future video, so make sure you subscribe. So yeah, things aren't looking all that good for Binance. And if any of these accusations turn out to be true, Binance US is probably going down. And who knows, it may spark more investigations into Binance by other countries, which would be really bad for the crypto world. And the very next day after announcing this lawsuit, the SEC announces another lawsuit, this time against Coinbase.
The Securities and Exchange Commission filed separate civil lawsuits against two major exchanges, Binance and Coinbase.
Coinbase is the latest crypto exchange in the SEC's crosshairs. The regulator is suing the crypto exchange, alleging that Coinbase was acting as an unregistered broker and exchange.
The SEC now filing suit against Coinbase in Manhattan federal court. It says Coinbase has operated as an unregistered broker since at least 2019.
Compared to Binance, Coinbase seems like they were at least trying to do most things by the book. So the lawsuit against Coinbase isn't nearly as bad as the one against Binance, where again the SEC is accusing Binance of doing every sketchy thing under the sun. But Coinbase's lawsuit is still pretty bad. Part of the charges are about Coinbase's Earn program, where you can stake crypto and earn a yield of like 5% or whatever.
Coinbase would make money by taking a spread on that yield. That product itself has been, classified as security, and since they've shut down their Earn program.
But the most important charges all centers around this. The SEC had officially classified 13 altcoins that Coinbase offers as securities instead of digital currency. 13 altcoins as securities instead of digital currency. These charges were applied to Binance too. So Coinbase has been offering securities kind of like Apple stock, for example, without registering them and without registering as an exchange, broker, and clearing agent with the SEC, which is a really big no-no. Imagine if Robinhood had launched their stock trading app without registering with the SEC. That's what the SEC is accusing Coinbase of, and Binance as well. But this very important charge all hinges on that one little detail, that those 13 altcoins are actually securities and not digital currency. Now, altcoins going from digital currency to securities may sound like a little technicality that shouldn't matter, but this little technicality is what's gonna single-handedly destroy crypto in America. Here's why. Before, whether or not altcoins were securities was still up in the air. The SEC never made a definitive decision, which was great for the crypto world because they didn't have to comply with America's super strict securities laws. But now with the SEC finally cracking down, saying that the biggest altcoins out there like Solana, Cardano, and Polygon are more like Apple stock than just another digital currency, something that you buy into with the expectation of profits based on other people's efforts, all of this is gonna change. If this ruling is finalized, which it probably will be, all these altcoins out there will only have two choices: register with the SEC or get out of America as fast as possible. Now, which route do you think they're probably gonna take? Here is the thing about America, is that we have the strictest laws in the world when it comes to securities and finance. There are so many strict rules here that even if you make just one little mistake, you can get fined a bunch of money or even get thrown in jail. On top of that, the securities laws in America are rooted in the Securities Act of 1933, which means that these laws are nearly a century old. All these altcoins would not be able to function under these laws. And now that altcoins are gonna fall under these very same laws, none of these altcoin creators are gonna bother being in the US. A Polygon or a Cardano or a Filecoin isn't gonna bother putting up with all of this when they can just move somewhere else that treats them better. So if this ruling goes through, every single altcoin is gonna flock to places that have much more relaxed regulations, so they don't have to deal with the SEC, and US-based customers will be left behind.
All of these altcoins are based in the Bahamas and in Monaco and in Switzerland, very Estonia, like very friendly regulatory places with little to no taxes. Hong Kong, right? Dubai. So why would they ever want to classify file in the US as security, and be domiciled here when they're against it? So I think you'll just see a paradigm shift. You'll just see altcoin offerings in the States, disappear, and become harder and harder for US investors to partake in them.
And the same thing goes with exchanges.
You'll see a shift of innovation. You will see Binance US shut down and Coinbase likely move and other exchanges follow. They'll move to other countries. The US, from a policy perspective, can be very difficult to navigate with all of the regulation in place. And you can say extra why about the Fed or the SEC and Treasury and all the governing bodies, but and are they corrupt? That's for you to decide. I won't take a position on that, but they're trying to protect investors. But ultimately, the sad part of this is I think you'll lose a lot of innovation, and the innovation in the United States, and that will migrate elsewhere. Binance US will go away. What I think could happen is Coinbase could roll out a subsidiary and have like a Bitcoin only exchange. And many of the exchange may take the same playbook. And those exchanges may list only the tokens that aren't classified as security.
As of right now, the only legit altcoin that appears to be safe from this ruling is Ethereum. Ethereum was not listed as one of those securities by the SEC, but I wouldn't bet on it staying that way.
what happened was the founders pre-mined Ethereum. So before the protocol was offered by ICO, they already pre-mined a ton of tokens. Vitalik became like a billionaire, and then they went off and sold it. So, while Ethereum hasn't been classified as security yet, I wouldn't be surprised if it was. And a lot of these other tokens were just, the founders, it's like a game of choice, right? They were like, all right, we'll take 20% of the tokens. We'll sell off 20% of the tokens. We'll unlock, we'll create some magical foundation that releases the other 60%, and 30% of the 60% comes back to us, and then leaving a 50% circulating supply. It's like people pick number out of a hat. But the fact that they've raised capital for the cryptocurrency in the format of an initial coin offering makes it security, and you have to register. And that's what the SEC really battles with.
So that is the current landscape. The SEC is finally trying to classify the majority of cryptocurrencies as securities. They're suing the biggest exchanges for not registering with them. And if all of this goes through, Binance will probably shut down its US operations. Coinbase will probably set up an international version separate from their US entity. But most importantly, all these altcoins will flock to greener pastures and leave America behind.
I'm not rooting against Binance, and I'm not rooting against Coinbase. I think they're important to the ecosystem, and to their credit, they've onboarded hundreds of billions of dollars and hundreds of millions of users to Bitcoin and to the ecosystem, and pushed a lot of innovation. So, if anything, I'd root for them, but I think it's important that people do think by the books. So a lot of the learnings that you'll come out of this is what you shouldn't do if once you get all this power and have all this exchange opportunity. And you think after seeing what happened with BlockFi and FTX and Gemini's Earn program and Celsius that, Coinbase and Binance would really get their act together. And they had that stuff started a year ago. And it seems, it's nice being able to sell off Bitcoin and having it in US dollars as you need it, in just a matter of minutes. Without Coinbase, you can't do that. Without Binance, you can't purchase, a lot of these alternative tokens that are interesting. But I'm in the camp, in general, like 99% of altcoins probably will not be successful.
So the real losers here will be the American people. Because short of breaking the law and using a VPN to get on international exchanges, Americans will no longer be able to put money into altcoins that they believe in. All because the good old SEC wants to protect you from yourself. How sweet of them, right? Go to Vegas and you'll find an entire city of degenerates and old people legally gambling their life away. But if someone wants to bet on an altcoin, no, that's too dangerous. Use our dystopian digital dollar instead. So when the dust settles and all altcoins have vanished from American shores, if Americans want to put money into crypto, they'll only have one real choice left. During all this mayhem, there has been one cryptocurrency that has been safe from the SEC's wrath: Bitcoin. Quote, Bitcoin was not named in the SEC's complaints. Bitcoin has been determined to be a commodity under the Commodity Exchange Act, which means typically the CFTC regulates it, end quotes. That is right. Instead of being classified as a security like Apple stock, for example, Bitcoin has already long been classified as a commodity, much like gold, sugar, or coffee. And there's a very clear reason why.
You have proof of stake and proof of work. So proof of work tokens are tokens that are backed by mining. So it's people that are, I like to think of as commoditized energy. Proof of stake tokens are sold, pre-sold usually, and they raise capital through an ICO, initial coin offering. And there's a lot of other fancy versions of ICOs, like STOs, etc. And those are, investors that are, buying in early and therefore can be, classified as security, right? Because you're raising capital for just an asset that you're minting. And proof of stake tokens, they have their transaction processed through validators of networks and staking protocols. And typically the problem with that is a small number of individuals will control a majority of the tokens and therefore have control of the protocol or the asset itself. And that's what a lot of people fear with Ethereum, right? There was no pre-mining. It was just released into the ecosystem. While Satoshi did mine, a significant amount of the initial tokens, it was open source and anyone could come in and mine it. right? And then you had some of the really legendary people like Hal Finney who processed the first Bitcoin transaction between Satoshi and himself. But the fact that it wasn't offered for sale through an ICO and is backed by physical energy, the government actually made a ruling that it should be classified as property. And this was a case that took place like around 2015, I believe. And it gave a very clear future roadmap. I like to think of it like digital gold. But Bitcoin is the only, I don't even like to call it cryptocurrency, right? Token that is officially property. So it is absolutely the safest and absolutely has the most clear policy behind it.
According to regulators, buying Bitcoin is already the equivalent of buying gold, for example. So the SEC can't touch it. So if the SEC wins, if altcoins get classified as a security, the only real choice Americans are going to be able to flock to is Bitcoin.
One of my key takeaways from this as well, looking at Binance and Coinbase, is that this is bullish for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not listed in this either of these sections. If anything, Bitcoin's been clearly ruled as a property. It tapered a little bit. It had a slight sell-off as soon as the SEC announcements come, but that's just because Bitcoin, unfortunately, is paired to all these altcoins. And when you have general macro or micro events that take place, and I'd say this is a large macro event, you'll see Bitcoin taper. But it's actually shown strength and kind of maintained in a range-bound trading. So I think this is all very positive for Bitcoin. So if you're a Bitcoiner and you see this, you have maximalists, you have evangelists, you have retail, and you have plebs, all these different classifications of Bitcoiners. It doesn't matter who you are. You can walk away as a Bitcoiner knowing that you should feel good.
But the biggest winners of this will be Bitcoin miners. Back in 2021, China was home to most of the world's Bitcoin miners, thanks to its dirt cheap electricity. At one point, China hosted 75% of the world's Bitcoin mining capacity. But then the Chinese government cracked down. China banned Bitcoin and made mining illegal, which meant that all those giant mining farms had to sell their miners for dirt cheap on the international markets. So miners flocked to countries like Russia, Kazakhstan, and America. And all of these miners are watching all of this SEC nonsense unfold with their mouths salivating, rubbing their hands together. But that begs the question, if you can just buy Bitcoin on Coinbase or wherever, why on earth would you ever want to sink a bunch of money into a Bitcoin miner to mine just a few dollars of Bitcoin a day? That is what I couldn't wrap my head around, until Mason explained it to me.
And let me give you an example of a typical situation. It's what I like to call a sideways market. Let's say we have a year where Bitcoin just sits at $25,000, right? So, and you're buying Bitcoin, on once a month. Your cost every month is $25,000 and you ended up a zero return. Well, miners actually were making money because every day our cost of energy remains the same and we're basically buying Bitcoin at a discount. You get what I'm saying? And my machine value then stays the same. And so I'm actually winning and I'm actually accumulating more Bitcoin than you at a discount. And actually miners make money in bear markets and that we make the most money in bull markets. And if you can time an investment right, and I've done this before, and I've seen the best players in the space do this. They trade in and out of their machines during bull markets, and they sell the machines for like 2x more than they paid. They keep all the Bitcoin they mine versus okay, let's say I bought Bitcoin, I made my 2x. Well, I can 2x on the Bitcoin I mined and 2x the machine I mined. And I've actually read research where miners from 2016 to 2020, they beat out hodlers. From 2020 to 24, they beat out hodlers.
Okay, makes sense. All right, now I finally get it. So if you just buy Bitcoin on an exchange, you only make upside when Bitcoin goes up in price. If it stays stagnant, then you have a net return of zero.
Or you could lose money. Miners actually make money in bear markets too. And the cheaper the energy, if you have free power, shockingly some people do in sovereign states and utility providers sometimes have 1 cent power, they could be they're profitable with Bitcoin at 3,000, right? Cost. Whereas if you bought at 26,000, then you got smoked, right? You lost 23,000.
Okay. And how would someone get into Bitcoin mining? Because traditionally, you would buy a miner yourself and you set up in your house or your shed or whatever. Can you go over why someone would want to do that and why they wouldn't, the downsides?
Okay, so home mining, really simple. Unless you have a good solar cell with solar battery and close to free power and you already invested in that, it's too expensive. The average retail residential energy rate is about 16 cents in the United States. To be competitive on mining, you need 8 cents or less. So at 8 cents, you're depending on what miner you have, your break-even cost on Bitcoin could be 15 to 20,000, right? So that therefore, if you're mining one Bitcoin a day you're making money. At 16 cents, like your break-even point is 26,000. So I would rather just buy Bitcoin in that case, unless I was really bullish on the future and I think Bitcoin was going to double. But still, it's just, it's more strategically effective to buy Bitcoin in that instance. And these machines, they sound like an airplane turbine. They produce a lot of heat. They require a lot of maintenance. They need to have proper airflow. They're very fidgety. If they break down, you need experts to repair them, and you need proper cooling, and you need all of the above. So, a lot of people do stick these in their shed, and some places do have cheap power. That's okay, but I think it's really rare for an at-home miner to be successful. Now, some at-home miners have been creative and harnessed the heat that's produced from the miner to heat their house, and that makes sense to me. And there's so many of the, you can Google, there's so many of these cool at-home heat mining setups.
Okay, makes sense. So what's the solution? How do you get around the expensive electricity and all the maintenance and upkeep?
Simply, unless you're going big and you raise, $100 million and go about your own build a data center, or you can get exposure by buying Bitcoin mining stocks, you partner with a company like myself. So Blockware, that's why I built it. I want to make mining accessible to everyone. So clients can come to us and buy machines from us. We'll host them to you. All of the rewards will go to you. We'll bill you monthly for energy. You leverage our economies of scale with an industrial contract with pulling from the grid or behind meter. So we make your break-even cost low. And then we manage the machines for you, we'll repair them for you, or we'll send them repairs. We have all the networks and relationships and competency to do so. We have software to automate it. And actually, we rolled out a product that's really interesting that we call the Blockware Marketplace. And that's, we're first to market with this. And this allows you to have liquidity on your miner and to take advantage of these use cases I listed, where Bitcoin, 2-3x's in price, you have the ability to sell it.
The Blockware Marketplace is super cool. Basically, Mason's firm already helps investors and institutional investors on Wall Street get into Bitcoin mining with his giant data centers, but he wanted to make it even easier for the average person to get into this. So now with the Blockware Marketplace, with the click of a button, you can buy your own Bitcoin miner from the comfort of your own home and have it instantly start mining for you straight into a Bitcoin wallet of your choosing. On the Blockware Marketplace, you can see a bunch of miners for sale, you can see what the miner is, the price, the data center location that the miner is located in, the hash rate, the estimated revenue you're going to be making based on the current price of Bitcoin and stuff, and there are miners in all price ranges listed on there right now. Once you see a miner you want to look into more, simply click on it, and then you can see the serial number, how long it's been online for, you can see charts of the miner's historical performance, and once you're ready to buy a miner, simply click buy, follow the instructions, and then that miner that is already online in their data center will be instantly assigned to you. And that's it. You are now mining Bitcoin, getting all the benefits of mining that we just talked about without ever having to do any of the setup or maintenance yourself. You get to put in whatever Bitcoin wallet address you want your mining rewards sent to, and Blockware will pay you out every 24 hours as long as you've mined at least 0.001 Bitcoin. And from there, you can also list your miner for sale anytime you want. Just list it for sale, and then someone else can buy the miner from you, just like how you bought yours.
Here's a story of an example of this product being really useful. In June 2020, the S19, which you could have just bought there, was released by Bitmain for $1,800. In November of 2021, when Bitcoin, had its run up and went all the way up to almost 70K, that machine was worth $15,000. So you had the opportunity to mine it and keep all those miner rewards, your energy arbitrage. And if you sold it at the Pico top, make an 8x return on that miner. I'm not out here pitching to you that that's a commonplace example. But what I see right now is, God, I wish I had that software running at that time because people could have used this. So I'm really excited about it. We launched it 6 weeks ago. We have over 1,000 users already. We've had over 450 transactions. This is just at my sites. We're rolling this at other external sites. And we just want to be the central place and then the marketplace for people and empower them to mine Bitcoin and have an easy way to mine Bitcoin and buy miners, but also have liquidity and sell off and have the ability to capture one of the next bull run.
And to give people context, you actually have a giant physical data center with a bunch of these miners in it, right?
Yeah, so we have 2 sites live in Eastern Kentucky in a beautiful area called the Appalachians. There's about 20,000 machines running there. I have a full data center team that manages and deals with if machines go down and fixing them and coordinating. We have a whole automated hosting and billing system.
So if you're interested in getting all the benefits of Bitcoin mining without having to do any of the setup and maintenance yourself, you can take a look at all the miners that are listed for sale on Blockware right now by clicking the link below. I'm a huge fan. I think Blockware is like a modern version of those companies that allow you to buy gold and they'll store it for you, but this is way better because gold just sits there while these machines are generating you Bitcoin. Blockware is the paid sponsor of this video. And again, this is not financial advice, we're not registered financial advisors. We all know how risky crypto can be. So click the square on the screen or click the link below to see what miners are listed for sale on Blockware right now.